Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister as the Police Minister. Chief Minister, at the recent Northern Territory Police Association conference, we both sat in the same room as the NTPA President, Nathan Finn, who described the retention bonus as nothing more than a lottery, one that leaves almost 90% of our hardworking police officers with nothing. At the same conference, the NTPA put a simple, direct question to you, Chief Minister, which you refused to answer. So I'll ask you here again. How should our police officers feel when they see a handful of colleagues pocket the retention bonus, while hundreds of others who have served longer, sacrificed more and faced the same dangers on the front line are left empty-handed with your broken promise of the retention bonus?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Opposition Leader for the question. It's great to finally see her rock up to a Police Association conference, because I've been going for a decade, Madam Speaker. And if there's one thing you know about them, it's the NTPA like to put all their cards on the table at that conference, and it's a really important time for delegates to come together right across the Northern Territory and really flesh out the issues facing policing and make sure that decision makers are there at the table, that we have the opportunity to hear from them and that they have the opportunity to hear from us. So I value it very, very highly. And everything I heard was that it was an excellent conference, as they always are. And if you go back a couple of years when it comes to this discussion around retention bonus, maybe the Opposition Leader is trying to be mischievous, or maybe she just doesn't know because she hasn't had anything to do with police before. Maybe I should give her the benefit of the doubt on that. But what I know, Madam Speaker, is that about the middle of last year, the NTPA came out and called on both the government, which the Opposition Leader was a minister in, and the opposition to deliver a police retention bonus, of which the CLP subscribed to immediately, Madam Speaker, whereas Labor did not. So I just find it a little bit ironic that the Opposition Leader can come in here when it was her government who flat out told police to their face, no. So we then worked with the NTPA. We rolled out a retention bonus. It's very clearly articulated in my press release what that would look like, and it very clearly said it would be a 12-month trial, a 12-month retention bonus, because what we were dealing with was the immediate loss of police. We had attrition under Labor up at 11%, Madam Speaker, 11%. And under the CLP, that is back down to 5.95%, which is huge, a huge reduction. And part of that is absolutely 100% delivering on the commitment we made, and police are being paid by that retention bonus as promised. We engaged with the Police Association on coming to government around what next steps could look like. I committed on top of our election commitment, which we are fulfilling, and all will be paid out by the end of the year. I additionally committed $3 million over 4 years to go to a retention bonus. Consensus was not reached on what that should look like, and the NTPA said to me, we'd rather it went on the base to give all police more pay, of which we have now delivered the best pay deal in 20 years, Madam Speaker. The best pay deal in 20 years, and that's the words of the NTPA, not mine, okay? That's their words, not mine. So we have delivered on our commitment. Mischief only creates mischief, Opposition Leader. And that is the story and the history of the retention bonus, as I've been telling for many months now. But we back in the blue, unlike Labor.
Member for Drysdale, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Chief Minister. The 12-month anniversary of the election marks a year since the government's plan to rebuild the economy began. One of the 5 priorities of that plan is growing defence industry because of the important role it plays in creating local jobs, increasing investment in the Territory, supporting our businesses and strengthening Australia's national security. Given how important defence industry is to our future, can you update the Assembly on how the government is backing in the Territory as an allied defence partner of choice?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Member for Drysdale, and thank you for your service to this country. Thank you for putting your hand up to serve. That is something that not many people have the courage to do, but you did. And I thank you very, very much for that. And I know that's why you're so passionate about the role the Northern Territory can play in the defence of this nation and peace in our region. And again, I reflect your service and the honour and the courage that you took to that role, and I thank you for being part of our team now to continue your service to our community. Defence is critical, and it is part of our 5 key focus areas for rebuilding the Territory's economy. And we know when Defence spend money in the Territory, it stays in the Territory. For every dollar, about 92 cents goes to local contractors. So the investment is real, and the profound impact it has is real. It is literally putting the food in the mouths of Territorians. That spend and that investment is key to our economy. But it's also key to growing our population, and it's also key for us to play our role in this nation. We have an indisputably important and strategic location in the Indo-Pacific. And what greater lesson do we have to learn than when war came to Darwin in 1942? And so we know that we have a critical role to play to support our nation in its preparedness, in making sure we are strong, but also for our allies and our region. And we've seen that through the Marine Rotational Force here in the Territory. And next week, there will be a delegation of local businesses supported by Defence NT who will travel to Pearl Harbor, Madam Speaker. And they're going to a very important Pacific Regional Summit hosted by the Society of American Military Engineers. And that is about the awarding of $15 billion US as part of the Pacific Deterrence Initiative multi-award construction contract. So it's huge. And they are there to put our best foot forward to get in front of the major proponents who will be making decisions about who they use for local content and who they use as local contractors if the Territory is lucky to get that work. And so they're there to put our best foot forward because we know it makes an impact to our economy and in those allied relationships. Next week, I will also travel to Japan. So we're having a 2-pronged attack next week, Madam Speaker, where I will meet with senior defence officials and senior government officials about the Japanese self-defence force rotation here in the Northern Territory to again solidify our ties with one of our closest allies in Japan and make sure that the Territory is put first. And I remind those who might tease the fact that I'm going to Japan, I can anticipate it already. David Crisafulli from Queensland is there right now trying to get Queensland's fair share, Madam Speaker. And so we must be at the table if the Territory is going to benefit, and I will be there next week to make sure that we do.
Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Yesterday on television, your colleague, Senator Jacinta Price, made outrageous and unfounded claims that migrants from India are being led into the country in high numbers purely for the federal government can gain political advantage. The CLP senator comments are absolute slap in the face to our Indian community and, in fact, Territorians from right across our diverse multicultural communities, particularly at a time when social cohesion in this country is at risk from far-right extremist fringe groups. Chief Minister, do you support your federal colleagues' views? And if not, why have you not publicly condemned her divisive comments?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I did a press conference this morning and was asked all about it, Opposition Leader. And certainly Senator Price has retracted those comments, which was the right thing to do. But more importantly, just take a look at my team, Opposition Leader. Just take a little look on this side of the House, because I don't think there's anything to worry about. The Northern Territory is an absolute multicultural melting pot of rich and diverse cultures from right around the world, for Aboriginal people who've been here for 60,000 years. It is what makes everything about the Territory great. And in fact, I gave a speech earlier this week, I think it was at the Bush Summit, where I said, where else in this country do people eat laksa for breakfast? It's here, Madam Speaker, because do you know what? We are proud. And as a migrant family myself, my grandparents migrated to Darwin 70-odd years ago. I'm grateful that they chose to make Australia home, more importantly, the Territory home, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And so when we look to the team, I see amazing people with strength and diversity of religion, diversity of background, diversity of experience, profession. We have, of course, 2 Indian members of Parliament, migrants themselves, paving a way for a future for their families and making this country and this Territory a better place. In fact, my colleague, the member for Sanderson, is the first minister of any crown in the in the country of Indian descent. And I can tell you now, he is like a rock star back in India for what he has achieved. It's just wonderful. And we are so proud. Our hearts are full when we sit as a team and just look at each other and think how amazing our contribution is, and that when you look into this parliament, and I told the media this today, opposition leader, I said, when you look into the parliament, and I've long said this, and people are in the gallery, when you look into the parliament, you should be seeing a cross-section of what is the Northern Territory. It should be like walking down Mitchell Street. It should be like going to Casuarina Shopping Centre. And that's what you get in the Northern Territory, because we are a special place. We are a place of great multicultural history. We have been built off the back of waves of multiculturalism for hundreds of years, Madam Speaker, and that is not going to change for us. And so here we are, Madam Speaker, again, with an opposition clearly out of ideas, out of things to talk about, back in the gutter where they love to play because they can't have a solid debate on policy. But, Madam Speaker, we've got plenty to talk about on this side because we're proud to be Territorian, we're proud to be delivering for our people, we're proud to be getting runs on the board, and 12 months in, we are so revved up and ready to go for the rest of the term, Madam Speaker, because we love this place more than anything in the whole wide world. And we will fight to the bitter end to make sure we leave it in a better place than what you did, which was to trash and burn it.
Member for Karama. Oh, sorry. Supplementary question, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My supplementary to the Chief Minister. Today, in line with the CLP's mandate of not being an apologist, Senator Price said she has nothing to apologise for the comments that she made yesterday. Do you support her comments, Chief Minister? And if not, what reprimand will you put on her since she is part of your party?
Chief Minister.
I'm not sure why you think I would be reprimanding anyone, Opposition Leader. I don't know how the Labor Party works. I really don't. But I'm just going to leave that one for you, and I'm just going to let that marinate for people listening at home. Madam Speaker, these are entirely matters for the Senator. She has withdrawn it from the Parliament. Perhaps if the Opposition Leader is so intrigued, she could ring the Senator herself and ask her, Madam Speaker. But again, I'm not sure how the Labor Party operates, but that's not how the CLP works.
Member for
Thank you, Madam
Silence, please. Silence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Karama, what is your question?
My question is to the Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure. Minister, as referenced in my speech this morning, Territorians are sick of paying for Labor's incompetence, but it's a far too common theme. We have inherited a legacy of irresponsible chaos under the previous government. Look at the Kavanagh Street shade structure. The project promised lush fines in 2018. But 8 years on, just like Labor's legacy, we've got stunted plants, endless excuses, and taxpayers slug the bill in the millions. Minister, we cannot continue to let this slide. How will the CLP just stop this implorable, endless waste?
Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, I still have to wear a hat when I walk under the shade structure, otherwise I get sunburnt on my head. And Madam Speaker, I thank the member for Karama for this question, and I agree. The irresponsible fiscal management of the Labor government is more than disappointing. It's an absolute disgrace. Territorians absolutely deserve better than to keep paying for Labor's failures, and there is no better symbol of their incompetence than the Kavanagh Street shade structure. The only thing shady about it, Madam Speaker, is the government that failed to deliver it. Those opposites sat shoulder to shoulder at the cabinet table that built Lawler's Labor legacy. They have forfeited every ounce of credibility. In 2018, Labor told Territorians with great fanfare to expect lush greenery and cool shade by 2020. And what do we get, Madam Speaker? 8 years later, we're left with stunted vines, patchy shade, and a bill that is already over $5 million, Madam Speaker. Territorians don't call that shade, they call it a sham. The excuses have been absolutely endless. Pruning, weather and disease. The truth is Labor ignored expert advice, planted the wrong vines and then spent years blaming everyone and took not one shred of accountability for their failure. Just constant refusal to admit their failures, trying to distance themselves from their appalling track record. And what should have been a simple project to deliver was fumbled as soon as Labor got their hands on it. It's just like the economy, Madam Speaker. We inherited from them, badly managed and failing to deliver. So year after year, taxpayers have been bled dry, keeping half-dead vines on life support, with hundreds of thousands of dollars already wasted and $130,000 a year, Madam Speaker, every single year ongoing to maintain those dead and dying vines that are never going to cover that structure. A multi-million-dollar project that delivered less shade than a pub umbrella. And while the list is long, Labor's Vanity Shade Structure project will go down the annals of NT history as one of the great white elephants of Darwin, Madam Speaker. But the CLP government has made the call again to cut our losses. Madam Speaker, the vines will be removed. The lighting features will be restored to create a modern streetscape that doesn't cost a fortune to maintain ongoing. We're putting an end to this ongoing waste, showing Territorians that only the CLP can be trusted to manage the Territory's finances and focusing on projects that deliver for Territorians.
Member for Daly, just hold on a minute. Opposition Leader, you are on another warning. There won't be any others. Member for Daly, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Treasurer, and I hope he doesn't go off his speaking notes this time. He can actually answer the question. Treasurer, as we all well know, your very first budget took the knife to regional roads, cutting works and upgrades to the Central Arnhem Road, Maringi Road, Catherine East Works, Felt River Crossing and the Stewart Highway. Your cuts have been usual pipeline of work dried up for our civil contractors and thrown them into absolutely uncertainty when it comes to their workflow and workforce. We have heard from many contractors that they are in danger of losing workers in a state where there is plenty of work rather than the stagnation and uncertainty they are experiencing here. Treasurer, do you acknowledge or even understand the flow of impacts your cuts are having on businesses and industries across the Territory?
Treasurer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank my young friend, the member for Daly, for the question. And he's trying, again, I think, to rewrite history, and he continues to do that in this Parliament.
Could you please pause? Referring to members of Parliament by their age is not appropriate. Although it might be done with the best of intentions, it's not appropriate. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okay, I take that on notice. So I thank the member for the question. And again, I repeat, he's trying to, I think, rewrite history. Now, I'll go back to the previous government's infrastructure program. Now, $5.2 billion they had on their list, and it was an infrastructure program being managed by press release and certainly not managed by delivery. So to deliver that $5.2 billion infrastructure program, Madam Speaker, in this financial year, at the end of their budget, when we were starting this one, so for a $5.2 billion infrastructure program that had already $2.2 billion on program, they had budgeted $235 million, Madam Speaker. So that was about $1.8 billion short of what was required to deliver that program, Madam Speaker. So we had to make some hard decisions. We had to make some difficult decisions about how we were going to deliver that program. And when you specifically look at the $5.2 billion of items that they'd put there, and a lot of this stuff was 5, 6, 8 years old. And Madam Speaker, the costings for those projects were old. And that's reflective now of the issues that we're dealing with the infrastructure program from Labor. Because they put all these press releases out years ago, got a little bit of planning done, and then went to deliver them and found out, well, oh, the $100 million we needed for that project is now $200 million. Because they actually never went back and done the work to understand what the real-time costs of delivery were. And that's the same with our roads, Madam Speaker. And I can tell you now, if Labor was serious about investing in our roads, and I spoke about it earlier in the week, let's look at the cost blowouts on some of their projects. So nearly $100 million on the Tiger Brennan overpass, $30 million across the harbour here at Mandurah, and I think around about $80 to $90 million on the State Square Art Gallery. And that equates to nearly $200 million, Madam Speaker, or a little bit over. I can tell you now The $200 million would deliver 200 kilometres of road. At the moment, it's about 1 to 1.2 million dollars a kilometre to deliver. So we're out there delivering roads. We're delivering on the Carpentaria Highway. Stage 2 is just completed. Stage 3 is commencing. We're delivering on the Tanami, working towards getting the next stage past Chilla well underway. There's work taking place now out on the Barclay Highway, I believe, to fix some repairs that were under the previous government. And
Order.
And we'll continue to deliver on roads because they are the heart and connection of our territory.
Member for Goyder, what is your question?
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Agriculture and Fisheries. Minister, we know Territorians love their fishing. In fact, 1 in 5 Australian adults participate in recreational fishing every year, improving wellbeing and contributing 100,000 jobs and $11 billion to the Australian economy. Right here in the Territory, it directly generates $144 million annually for the local economy. While we often see anglers in our picturesque rivers and waters, we know that many people in the Territory rely on land-based fishing to catch their prized barra. Minister, can you tell the House how the growth of recreational fishing in the Territory is being supported through the Northern Territory's Recreational Fishing Grant Scheme?
Minister for Agriculture and Fisheries.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Goyder for his question because I know that he is a passionate rural boy and he loves his fishing, and in fact I'm sure he's got a few fish in his home zoo that he's got back there in Bees Creek. Madam Speaker, we all know that recreational fishing is a huge draw card to tourists and also for the local, and it brings in a significant amount of money to the Territory economy. There is so many people in the Northern Territory who go fishing, whether it be land-based fishing or whether it be in a boat, Madam Speaker. Not only does it allow people to go out on the water, it also allows people to relax and spend some time with the family and just unwind from their busy lives. So, Madam Speaker, the member for Goyder was correct. It does inject literally millions of dollars into our economy, directly and indirectly. And the Territory Government is proud to continue to support rec fishing right across the Northern Territory because we know how important it is, Madam Speaker. And one of the ways we do that is through the Recreational Fishing Grant Scheme. This is a scheme, Madam Speaker, where local groups, organisations can apply to the government for grants to be able to do fishing-based projects right across the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker. There's round 1 is just shut, Madam Speaker, where you can apply for grants between $15,000 and $100,000, where round 2 can go up to $225,000 is open right now, and in fact, Madam Speaker, it closes on the 5th of October. So, Madam Speaker, if any organisations are out there and you're interested in fishing, land-based fishing, please look on the website, make an application, because we want to spread this money far and wide because we want to support fishing because it supports community and, more importantly, Madam Speaker, it supports family. Madam Speaker, we are really ensure that that we go out there and we spread this money wide, Madam Speaker. And a couple of examples of where this money has been spent already, Madam Speaker, is the Katherine Game Fishing Club hosts the 2025 Kids Fishing Day. And in fact, Madam Speaker, when I was in Katherine, I went down with the member for Katherine. We went down to the low level with the Katherine Fishing Club and spoke to them about what they're doing and how passionate they were to be able to get their great job, to get these young kids out fishing and get them out, because we all know Katherine is a great area and it's got the river there. Madam Speaker, the Council of the Ageing, the oldies, who are older than me, go out fishing, and they had 150 seniors participate in land-based fishing and chartering. So it really goes to show, Madam Speaker, that fishing can be for the young, it can be for the old, it can be for the whole family. And, Madam Speaker, the Palmerston Game Fishing Club, they host the Buddy Day, Madam Speaker, and myself, and in fact, the Treasurer has been out. We took my boat and I had a decky with me, and we had people out there and we went fishing with them. And I think I've spoken about it before. The joy this lady had with our boat was amazing. She caught a few fish, had a good time. She even had a little nap on the boat from memory. So, Madam Speaker, that's what fishing's all about. That's what it's about in the Northern Territory. We support locals. We support the community.
Member for Arafura, what is your question?
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for People, Sport and Culture. Minister, prior to the election, the NAM member for Fanny Bay promised major upgrades to Gardens Oval. Why has there been no mention of this promise since the election?
Minister for Sport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member Farah, for the question. So I think in this chamber, for the last 3 days that we are seeing that opposition members are so much interested in our election commitment, that 17 members on this side made, and one thing they keep forgetting is around like it's an election commitment.
Can you just pause, please, Minister? I can't hear what he is saying. Can you please be quiet and pay him the respect he deserves? Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I think when it comes to the election commitment, they clearly know that it is for the term of the Parliament, and that's for the 4 years. And we are working on that. We already done few of them, and I think I'm sure like recently I went along with Member for Nelson and Member for Goider and announced the no-built one. And when I was driving past the other day, we saw that the light pole is already there. So along with that, when it comes to the Member for Fanny Bay's electorate, and also when it comes to that election commitment, she is actively working with myself as the Minister for the People, Sport and Culture and with the Treasurer. We are working on a timeline, and I can assure to the Member for Afura, you will be able to see that that's going to be happening before the end of this year, this term. So don't want to worry much about our election commitments. And I think what I would strongly suggest for the members of the opposition is about like try to work for your community and come up with the project and try to work with the government so you can actually try to deliver something for your community along the same time as well. So what I'm not saying is about like in the last 12 months, I haven't seen any single letter from any members of the opposition saying about like this is what we wanted in their electorate. So better they're focused on what they want to do for their people, for the people that elected them, with a good faith that hopefully they're going to do the right thing. But I would strongly urge for them to work for their community. Member for Fanny Bay is doing an excellent job in her community. We can see like the number of people using her community room, for example, on a Saturdays. So we are seeing like that place is bursting, and that was like a seat held by the Labour for many years or more, like I don't know how many, more than 2 decades. So it means like it clearly shows about like how passionate she is, and she is working for the electorate. And I need to say about like I think she is an assistant minister proudly working along with me, and we both are working as a team, and we will make sure like this commitment is done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Fong Lim, what is your question?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. My question is also to the Minister for People, Sport and Culture. This dry season, Minister, as you're aware, we've had a blockbuster for sport in the Territory. We've seen the long-awaited return after 20-odd years of international cricket, and those 2 T20 internationals are some of the best games I've been to in person for many years. It was wonderful to see so many people there. We've got the AFLW Dreamtime last Friday night. We've got international hockey. I've seen you with a hockey stick, Minister, this week, and at the Oceania Cup next week. Plus, we've got the Motocross GP coming up at Hidden Valley in my own wonderful electorate of Fong Lim. Now, these events are not just great entertainment, they showcase our Territory lifestyle to the nation and to the world. They inspire our future generation of athletes and provide a huge boost to our local economy. Minister, can you please outline for us what our government is doing to deliver these elite sporting events and the infrastructure to back them and restore our Territory lifestyle?
Minister for People, Sport and Culture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Fong Lim, for that question. So I know that I think how passionate he is about sports and especially cricket, because I have seen like he was spending his time and making sure like he was watching the whole game, whereas like some of us were like wandering around and trying to meet people, but he makes sure that he watched the whole game. So when it comes to like the Northern Territory, so 12 months ago, so Territorians made it loud and clear that they want the lifestyle to be restored. And that's what exactly we are delivering as a government from the CLP. And we have seen, like as Member Fong Lim said, that 2 international T20 cricket played here in the Darwin. And especially when it comes to that catch by the Bush pilot Harry Gill, I mentioned already in this chamber, that's going to be played in the international venues for a long time. That's going to be the untold like story for the Territory, and then that's going to promote Territory into the future as well. And I just want to take this moment to thank probably 3 of my colleagues who played that significant role in making sure like I think we got the T20 cricket back to Darwin. So one, Chief Minister as the leader for the government, Minister Boothby and Minister Carl. So thanks for the collaborative work. So which we clearly see about like what Territory is about, and we have seen the crowds. And when it comes to the like the crowd as well, like the tickets were sold out for the first game like 3 days before. So we all received like many phone calls in the last 3 days leading to the cricket, asking for like, can we get the tickets? And we basically said like, we all told you earlier, go and get your tickets because it's very limited. And that's what we exactly seen as well. And also I take this opportunity to thank Gavin Dovey from NT Cricket and Joel Morrison from Cricket Australia as well to working along with us and make sure like I think we were able to deliver this to the Territorians. And this dry season has shown how TIO Stadium can be a multi-sport venue as well. So we have seen like cricket, and then within 2 weeks, AFLW was played in the same venue between Essington and Richmond. And we have seen, like, I think, how quickly they were able to adapt, and close to 6,000 people were there for cheering for the AFL game as well. And as Member for Fong Lim mentioned, so the Oceania Cup is starting this weekend. So that's another international hockey event going to happen here after 8 long years in Territory. So, and the special thing would be is the Territorian, Jeremy Hayward is the captain of Kookaburras. So we can see like a young person who grew up here in Territory and played hockey is taking to the international level and leading Australia. So it's a very proud moment for the Territory as well. And we got like many more things to come, which is MXGP in 2 weeks. Thanks again to Minister Boothby for the very proactive work done for the last 12 months, along with the Minister Yan as well. And when, as I mentioned about like Fred Pass, we have seen the light pole already there. We are going to see that very shortly. Thank you.
Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Mining and Energy. Minister, earlier this week you spoke the fact that the mining sector was going gangbusters under the former Labor government, creating jobs, opportunities, supporting local suppliers, driving real economic growth across our very important regions, something your government is reaping the benefits of right now. Minister, given your acknowledgement of Labor's legacy when it comes to Territory mining sector and supporting it, can you please name a single project that is actually being greenlit by your CLP government that wasn't already underway or approved formally before you came to power?
Minister for Mining and Energy.
Madam Speaker, I can answer that quickly. The APA pipeline, which we announced today.
Excuse me, Minister, can you pause? Leader of the Opposition, you just asked the question. Why would you sit down and commence yelling across the chamber? Please be quiet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you for the question, because I really love talking about the mining industry, Madam Speaker, because we know the mining industry pays for the health system, pays for the police and pays for the school. So without the mining industry in the Northern Territory, we wouldn't have a health system, we wouldn't have police looking after us, and we wouldn't have people educating us through the schools, which is super important, Madam Speaker, because we know that this previous Labor government failed the Northern Territory. They neglected the schools, they neglected the police, they neglected the health system, and they certainly neglected the correction system, Madam Speaker. That's why, when we got elected, we came to office with a clear message. We're going to keep the community safe, we're going to rebuild the economy, and we're going to restore our lifestyle, Madam Speaker. 3 simple things which are working because the community feels safer, Madam Speaker. So the mining resource industry has got a lot to answer for that, because they're paying the bills, Madam Speaker. So back to your question, what about Nobles Knob at Tennant Creek, Madam Speaker? They're the new mine. In fact, Madam Speaker, I was there when they had their first gold pour. And I think the member for Barclay, and we held the gold in our hands, Madam Speaker.
Take your seat, Minister. His answer isn't up for debate, Leader of the Opposition. What's your point of order?
A Standing Order 110, conciseness. The question was specifically about projects underway or not already approved prior to you coming to government.
Opposition
Obviously,
Leader,
Nobles was approved before you came to government.
Seat.
So can you please name a single project?
Opposition Leader, his time isn't even halfway expended, so please give him the opportunity to answer the question as he sees fit. Please continue, Minister.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Madam Speaker. And like I said, Nobles Knob, I want to speak. I was actually speaking to the owners of that company at Resource Week this week, Madam Speaker. And while I'm talking about Resource Week, Madam Speaker, 800 people here in the Northern Territory promoting resources in the Northern Territory, getting to know each other, building relationships, networking, and more importantly, Madam Speaker, working out how to spend their money in the Northern Territory. That is what we're all about, Madam Speaker, is building the Northern Territory, and not only in Darwin and Katherine and Alice Springs, but in the remote areas of the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, because that's where these mines are situated. So for the Beetaloo, for example, basically in the middle of the Northern Territory. We've got our Nolan project just north of Alice Springs coming online. This is going to be actual game changer for the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker. Over $1 billion spent into our community. So we are here to support the mining industry, and Resource Week, Madam Speaker, is a classic way to do that, and we intend to make it bigger and better each year. Not only mention the Economic Summit that was here earlier. These people from overseas coming into the Northern Territory with some money in their pockets and a big fat chequebook ready to spend their money, Madam Speaker. So that's what we're talking about. Again, another project, the APA pipeline, Madam Speaker. It's going to connect the Beetaloo into the Armadales pipeline and be able to put gas up here to Darwin to keep the lights on, and also, Madam Speaker, to be able to send gas over to the...
Take your seat, Minister. What's your point of order? Opposition Leader.
Standing Order 110, relevance with 22 seconds. Can the Minister name a single project that your government has greenlit? No, that wasn't already approved before you came to power.
Do not debate on the floor of the chamber during question time. The Minister will answer the question as he sees fit.
I am not sure what universe the lead opposition is, but I can assure you the APA pipeline, the 37-kilometre Stuart-Paddo pipeline, was not approved until just last week, Madam Speaker. So I am not sure where she thinks her timing comes from, but, Madam Speaker, we back the mining industry, we back the gas industry, and we want to make sure that we support the Northern Territory the best we can.
Member for Blaine, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Education and Training. Minister, the Term 2 2025 school attendance stats were recently released, showing overall attendance rates slightly down, but green shoots where school attendance officers are working. And I was pleased to see Maldon Primary School in my electorate achieve an attendance rate of 76% for Term 2. Let's see if we can get above 90% in Term 3. The Northern Territory has had 8 years of declining school attendance rates under the former Labor government, falling from 80.8% in 2016 when there was a CLP government to 71.7% when Labor were thrown out in 2024 last year. Minister, can you please outline to the House what actions the Finocchiaro CLP government is taking to improve school attendance rates across the Territory?
Minister for Education and Training.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Blaine for the question. And I applaud Principal Sylvia Gregory there out at Maldon Primary School on the very hard work that she does, along with many other schools and principals and teachers that are working hard right across the Territory to get kids back to school. We know that the opposition leader was one of 4 education ministers in the previous government that saw education attendance rates, literacy and numeracy go to plummeting levels, Madam Speaker, and it's a shame on them of what they actually have left us with. So what we are doing on this side, Madam Speaker, is we're delivering on our election commitments. We said that we'd bring back school attendance officers. We have 18 school attendance officers working right across the Territory. Along with that, we have 22 engagement officers working with them. So, you know, they are doing a lot of hard work across the Territory to make sure that kids are getting back into schools, they're engaging with families right across the Territory. I've said many times I've been out with those attendance officers and seen the hard work that they do, seen the engagement they have with families. The Chief Minister and I were just at the Education Precinct in Katherine a couple of weeks ago talking to the engagement officers there, attendance officers. And the best thing about the attendance officers, Madam Speaker, is they, no matter what region they're in, they're very local to their region. They know families right across. They have those connections. They're born and bred Territorians, most of them, whether it be Jono down in the Alice Springs area, or Tui down there as well, or we've got, you know, many in my electorate as well in the Big Rivers region, but right across the Territory, whether they are going to schools in the Barkly, whether they're going to schools wherever it is, shopping centres, they're out there making sure that they engage with parents, engage with children and get them back to school. Because we know, Madam Speaker, that if we don't have kids in schools, there is no meaningful pathway to them for a job, and that's what we want. We want kids to finish school and get into a job. So I applaud the work of the likes of Principal Sylvia Gregory there at the Maldon School. and many others right across the territory that are doing this hard work as well. As the member said, we've had green shoots in the attendance rates. In Timber Creek, Madam Speaker, we've seen an increase from 31.2% in Term 2 to 67.9% in Term 2. And I think you'd say that that's a considerable increase, and that has been by the hard work of those attendance officers out there in the Timber Creek region, working with the families, working with the school and working with the students to make sure they get back in there. So, Madam Speaker, we will continue to do that work right across the territory, and I applaud and thank the attendance officers and the engagements officers, as well as all the teachers and hard-working staff out there in the education system.
Member for Johnston, what is your question?
Madam Speaker, my question is for the Attorney General. Attorney General, yesterday I asked a question of the Minister for Child Protection on the Child Death Review Committee. I understand that's actually your portfolio. I want to correct my statement yesterday. There's actually been 21 child deaths since October last year. The Minister for Child Protection said yesterday this committee has met twice this year. Can the Attorney General confirm when these meetings took place and outline who is currently a member of that committee? Thank you.
Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Johnston for the question. And you're right, you did ask how many meetings they've had, and it was 2, which my colleague helped you with. As to the exact dates of when they have met, I don't have that exact detail. It's very specific, and so I could put that, in a written question or something, or I could get a briefing from my office, or you could, I could get it to you. Put it that way. But the Child Death Review Committee has been something that's been around for a very long time, and their work was to look at, in addition to what the coroner was doing, into deaths of children. And the work that they have been doing has, been the same work that the coroner also does in terms of investigations into child deaths. And so we are doing things a little bit differently now. We're looking at that. We're working out whether that's a duplication and if it's needed to happen or not, because if it's something that's a duplication, that's already another body or a person doing that work, then there might not be any reason to have 2 organisations doing the same kinds of work. And so I'm looking into that now. We're going through the legislation that is involved with that, and I look forward to seeing the outcome of that to ensure that all of our public servants that we have working across the territory are doing meaningful work that's going to actually make the territory a better place.
110, sorry, just to clarify, I asked...
Member for Johnston, the Minister has completed her answer. You've left it a bit late. Member for Fanny Bay, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is also to the Attorney General, but as the Minister for Parks and Wildlife. Now, the opposition seems to be very keen on talking about my amazing suburb of electorate of Fanny Bay, so let's just keep that ball rolling for a little while, shall we? Minister, Territorians value our parks and community spaces as part of our unique lifestyle. Families and school students across Darwin have been calling for one much-loved feature of the George Brown Botanic Gardens to be brought back to life, this iconic treehouse. The treehouse that would have been absolutely destroyed if the previous Labor government had remained in government. But not under us, Madam Speaker. We're in a year of action and we've saved the treehouse. Minister, can you please update the House on how the CLP government has listened to the community and delivered on this project during our first year in office?
Minister for Parks and Wildlife.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Fanny Bay. Your constituents must know, and I must tell them, that you are constantly pounding down my door on my phone, coming to find me so that you can fight for them, fight for your constituents across the electorate of Fanny Bay. They are wonderful people who have a lot of great ideas, and they come to you with the challenges that they want fixed. And so, as you just outlined, the George Brown Darwin Botanical Gardens has an amazing treehouse structure that kids have loved to play in for many, many years. And of course, under Labor, it's sat there broken. So I think it was since 2023, member for Fanny Bay. A long time. And there was school children coming to see you. There were, groups that go down and love the little restaurant down there, Eva's. There we go. Everybody loved the treehouse. And so, of course, when you raised this issue with me, we had to go and do some digging around to find out, what had happened in the first instance, and that was it was just left to rot under Labor, which seems to be their legacy. But we we moved heaven and earth and we got the local contractors in, Waterbar Proprietary Limited, and I hope I've said that right for them, but they worked pretty much day and night, a lot longer than the Labor Party likes to work over there, and they brought it to life within just a few months, and it was a fantastic announcement to be able to deliver, and of course you as a member for Fanny Bay was there with those students that you were able to get the photos with and you watched them playing up in that tree house. Jason Hanna from Eva's Cafe, he was very excited as well. He actually said everyone is excited by the opening, that gardens have always been free and these kind of reopenings keeps that tradition alive. 450,000 people every year go and visit the Botanical Gardens, Madam Speaker. That's extraordinary amount of people that go and visit. So, we are so true to our word when it comes to restoring our territory lifestyle. And of course, the treehouse is it's a symbol of that lifestyle, that children just love to go and play there. It's a beautiful gardens. Parks and Wildlife do a fabulous job to upkeep it, and of course we needed to find them that money, and thank you to the Treasurer who helped me find that money, and we prioritised it. We said 450,000 people love that park and that treehouse. Students from not only Larrakia Primary School but right across your electorate, member for Fanny Bay, had come to you, and the Friends of the Gardens too, I should mention them as well because they too came to you. You were telling me about them. It's not just the Botanical Gardens though, it's the purpose of Silkwood, it's the reinstating the permits for crocodiles. There's so many things about the territory lifestyle that we are serious about returning, and we're already showing all of that delivery there. And I should also mention too, because my colleagues will be heading out there shortly, we promised to extend the Lemon Bight Marine Park, and that's exactly what my colleagues are going to go and talk about.
Time has expired, Minister. Member for Guadja.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Mining and Energy. Minister, at a reception this week here you hosted in Parliament, you told those at your gathering that those outside protesting, speaking out against racism, were not welcome. You've absolutely had nothing to say about the so-called March for Australia rallies held over the weekend. So, Minister, tell us, what is it exactly about the Territorians who were peacefully protesting racism out the front that you found so offensive? Why don't you think they belong in the Territory while you have stayed silent on the rallies that have had clear racial overtones?
Minister for Mining and Energy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the question because, Madam Speaker, what I'll say, and I think the Chief Minister said it before, if you don't enjoy our territory lifestyle, if you don't back the community, if you don't back rebuilding the economy, you're not welcome here. Go home. Because we're about the community, we're about restoring our lifestyle, we're about rebuilding the economy and keeping the territory safe, Madam Speaker. And if you don't want to fall in behind one of those pillars, Madam Speaker, what are you doing in the Northern Territory? Go and live in somewhere where it's cold and wet and drizzly, or whatever you want to do, wherever it may be. But in the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, we want to make sure that we are about making the Territory a better place. And, Madam Speaker, that's what we're all here elected for, Madam Speaker. And that's why I got into politics, Madam Speaker, because I could see over many years that the previous Labor government had managing the Territory's lifestyle and economy, it was going downhill. It was on a very, very slippery side going downhill, Madam Speaker. So I decided to say, instead of sitting back and doing nothing, I'm going to try and put my hand up and make a difference, Madam Speaker. And thanks to the leadership of Leah Finocchiaro, we are making a difference. We are making the Territory a better place.
Take your seat, Minister. Member for Guadja. The Minister is answering the question. It might not be what you want to hear. What is your point of order?
I'm just asking for a point of order, 110, Madam Speaker. It was a very pointed question. Minister, you've told Territorians who are peacefully protesting racism that they're not welcome here. What is it that you found so offensive about their peaceful protest?
Take your seat, please, Member for Guadja. Minister.
I am about backing the Northern Territory. We're about backing the Northern Territory in. We do not support people who deny the Territory's lifestyle, Madam Speaker. We want people here who are going to commit to the Territory about making it a better place, making it a safer place and spending their money here, Madam Speaker. That's why I am so supportive of the mining industry and the resource industry and the gas industry, Madam Speaker, because like I said previously, Madam Speaker, today, they're the people who pay the bills. They're the people who pay for the education. They're the people who pay for the police, and they're the people who pay for our health system, Madam Speaker. So I really support the industry, and I want to get behind them, and I encourage Territorians, Madam Speaker, to get in behind the Territory and back it. Spend your money here, go out, start a small business. If you work for the government, work hard like they all do, and I have a big shout out to the public servants, especially in agencies I look after. They do a great job, Madam Speaker. Without them working tirelessly, working hard, we wouldn't have approvals. We wouldn't have the new gas pipeline coming through. We wouldn't have the Beetaloo up running where it is, Madam Speaker, because they are the ones behind the scenes doing the hard work, working overtime, doing their thing to make sure that those approvals get put in place, make sure the environment is protected, Madam Speaker, because they do a great job. So again, a big shout out to the public service. You do a great job, and thank you for all your time and effort you've put, because those people back the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker. They're here to make the Territory a better place, and that's what I'm here for, Madam Speaker, and that's what we're all here for, to ensure the Territory can move forward and not move backwards like it did for year after year under the previous Labor government, Madam Speaker. Crime was out of control, rehabilitation programs weren't working, and that people were just getting locked up, and there was no breaking the cycle of offending, Madam Speaker, and that's what we're here to do, make the Territory a better place.
Member for Casuarina, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for People, Sport and Culture. Minister, the Northern Territory is renowned for its vibrant and diverse art scene, which plays a vital role in both our lifestyle and our economy. I understand you recently traveled to Gapuviak to officially open their new Arts and Culture Centre, right in the heart of East Arnhem Land. Can you please update the House on not only the
Silence,
importance of
please.
this centre for the community, but arts as a whole?
Minister for People, Sport and Culture.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Casuarina, for that question. So I was incredibly fortunate to travel to Gapuviak recently to join the official opening of the beautiful Cultural and Arts Centre. And I just want to acknowledge the Leader of Opposition and Member for Arnhem, Selina Ubo, being there. And I missed Member for Malka. I was there during the day, and I think I heard yesterday from Member for Arnhem that Member for Malka was there in the evening and was with the family. So it was great to hear. So, like when it comes to the art centers in the regional areas and the remote communities, that's one of the driver of jobs and opportunity. And when it comes to the Gapuviak one, this is one of the main driver of jobs and opportunity in that region. So for many community members, it's a primary source of non-government income. These art and culture centers earn a living, pass knowledge on, and strengthen the community. And I just want to acknowledge the Yolnu traditional owners who warmly welcomed and had like a wonderful ceremony when we were there, and also specifically to Emmanuel Unipingu, who welcomed us all there. And also when it comes to the art centers, the board, Johnny Malibu, the artist, and particularly Trevin Van Wieren, who all played a really well role over the many years to make sure, like I think that's completed, and we were able to officially open that in the Gapuviak. And when it comes to the art galleries, I think that's not the only one that I was visited like last month. I would say like I was fortunate to visit over 10 art galleries in the last 1 month alone, and many of them were part of the Darwin Festival. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank James Guff, the CEO of the Darwin Festival, and Kate Fell, the artistic director of the Darwin Festival. So they both did like a really fantastic job to make sure like we had like a really packed 2 weeks, or just about 2 weeks of Darwin Festival, which I'm sure like Member for Fong Lim talked about like few of those in the last couple of days in this chamber as well. And along the festival, I was able to officially address the Australian Performing Arts Exchange, or APEX, with hundreds of delegates from Australia and New Zealand. So it was a wonderful gathering of people coming together and enjoying our beautiful dry season here in Darwin. Most of them are from down south, probably kind of like Member for Nelson mentioned about like really cold, drizzled place. So they were really enjoying, and they all really warmly talked about like how beautiful Darwin is, so which is really good to hear, especially from the people from interstate. And I was also fortunate to announce the winner of the PAC Australia Impact Awards, Corrugated Iron Youth Arts, and I met Member for Wanguri's brother there, and I think it was a great way to interact with him at that time as well. So it was, and when it comes to the art funding, so we have opened the arts grants program, nearly 8 million on Monday this week. Thank you.
Member for Johnston, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Children and Families. Minister, in estimates, you're unable to say how many children in care actually had a care plan. I thank you for your written response to my written question 139, which confirms that every child is supposed to have one reviewed annually. We know that 3/4 of Aboriginal children in care are placed with non-Aboriginal carers, and the Aboriginal Child Placement Principle relies on strong and active care plans to keep children connected to family, culture and country. Minister, how many Aboriginal children in out-of-home care currently have a care plan in place, and what systems are in place to monitor and enforce compliance?
Minister for Children and Families.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Johnson. As you've already noted, Member for Johnson, you've got the details of the children who have care plans in place. That hasn't changed at this point in time. But basically what happens is, as they approach different points in their care, as they are working their way through the system, as the department works with families to see how best they can care for the children, how they can keep children with their families, the situation is always evolving, and the absolute focus is that where possible, those care plans are put in place where appropriate. So basically what happens is the child comes into care, there's a reason why that happens, there's all of the challenges that we have in that place, and the absolute focus, Madam Speaker, is to make sure that fundamentally the best interests of the child are represented, that they are kept safe and secure, that they attend school, that they are fed, they are clothed. And the department works tirelessly with children who are at risk, families, to make sure that that can be addressed. And Madam Speaker, I get many, many, many inquiries from people about how best they can actually facilitate the care for their children. We work really hard with non-government organisations, Aboriginal community controlled organisations. We work with communities. I personally have visited a number of our remote communities and talked to the elders in those communities about how we can actually make this work better, how we can actually make sure that these children are kept safe and are kept secure, and that they are where they are best needed to be. And Madam Speaker, as my colleague, the Minister for Education and Training, has said, the absolute fundamental thing that we need to ensure is that these kids are at school, that they are then looked after when they are at home, that they are not exposed to unnecessary violence or alcohol-related harm because their families are struggling in those spaces, which is where the family responsibility agreements that the circuit breaker team work with. Our absolute commitment is to make sure that these kids stay where they belong, and that is with their families. The care plan process, and unfortunately it's a little challenging at the moment to get real-time data on that, which is why the figures that were provided to the member for Johnston are still the figures that I have available to me. But if she'd like an update, Madam Speaker, I'm more than happy to provide that to her on notice if that's acceptable.
Member for Wanguri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is the Minister for Mental Health. Minister, the devastation of suicide is far-reaching. Suicide affects individuals, whole families and entire communities. And sadly, the NT suicide statistics are the highest in Australia. With World Suicide Prevention Day Forum 2025 at Charles Darwin University coming up on the 10th of September, I'm keen to learn about the 2025-26 Northern Territory Suicide Prevention Community Grants and the 28 projects across the Northern Territory that have just been awarded a slice of $258,000 of grant money to deliver culturally informed and community-led approaches to prevention, which are indeed essential to enabling more people to access the help they need.
Minister for Mental Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Wanguri for this very important question. The Northern Territory Suicide Prevention Community Grants are a vital investment in the wellbeing and strength of communities across the Territory, and we are very proud to support these 28 locally led programs for 25-26. The grants, ranging from $500 to $10,000, empower non-government organisations and community members to deliver vital, locally driven suicide prevention projects across the Territory. Every Territorian deserves access to the best mental health and suicide prevention support, no matter where they live, and these projects provide innovative, practical opportunities to make a real impact. As you mentioned, Member for Wanguri, the Territory's suicide rates are the highest in the country. In 2023, 44 Territorians died by suicide, which is a rate of 17 per 100,000 people, compared to the national age standardised rate of death by suicide, which is only 11.8 people, which is far too many per 100,000 across Australia. This rate is even higher for Aboriginal Territorians, who experience a rate of 30.2 people per 100,000. In our year of action, we are delivering certainty and security for Territorians through a grants program that raises awareness and supports those struggling through difficult times. We're committed to empowering communities to foster connection and deliver meaningful change, because suicide prevention starts with strong and resilient communities and support close to home. Projects across all 5 NT Health regions, Top End, Big Rivers, East Arnhem, Barkly and Central Australia, have received funding. This includes the Darwin Dragons Rugby Union Club, who will host a Suicide Prevention Week and Family Day for the community. Deadly Hair Dude, delivering suicide prevention yarning sessions in Bloodowich. Life Education NT, providing social and emotional wellbeing education in my hometown of Tennant Creek. Arnhem Land Progress Aboriginal Corporation is running a Resilience First Aid program in Gallawinku. Childbirth Education Association is establishing a perinatal mental health peer support group in Alice Springs. And the Jarwin Association Aboriginal Corporation is hosting a men's healing and suicide prevention camp in Katherine. Madam Speaker, these are just a handful of the amazing community-led initiatives that will raise awareness and contribute to suicide prevention across the Territory. And I want to thank all of those providers that have made the effort to put in for this grant funding. It will make a difference, and this is what we encourage right across the Territory, Madam Speaker. We're committed to seeing suicide rates reduce here in the Northern Territory, and I thank everybody involved. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I move that any further questions be placed on the written notice paper.